Merry Meet. So I thought I would talk to you guys a little bit about what I am doing for Samhain this year because it is a little bit different than previous years. So, I don't know, I guess the first thing is a lot of things I'm still doing the same. Obviously, I'm going to visit my family graves as I do every year. I might switch up which ones we go to first, just depending on what time we end up having to be visiting, because driving way the F to the one is just, you want to hit it at the least amount of traffic possible because it's like a good hour and a half of driving each way. So trying to figure out a good time of day for that because you don't want to go too early, but you don't want to go too late, and just, yeah, if only they could have not picked a cemetery so far away. That was inconvenient. But yeah, so I'll be visiting my family graves as always and exploring some cemeteries in between. And then I'm also obviously going to be dressing up and handing out candy for the trick-or-treaters. That's what Halloween is all about, is, you know, making a good experience for the kids. So going to be doing that, and then once they're done, which is usually about like 8 or 9, they aren't out too late. And I feel like this year it's gonna be like ridiculously cold, if it doesn't even snow. I wouldn't be surprised. It is that chilly. Like already it's just like, oh, I miss summer. But at the same time, I'm just like, please be the middle of December, because I am so done with classes. The tragedies. But yeah, so when Samhain rolls around, I do have a lot of new things that I'm going to be doing as per ritual sort of things. So the first one is, I don't know, I should have my phone, but I don't. I don't actually know when the new moon or the full moon or whatever moon things are going on this month happen, but whichever one is going to be coming up next, I'm probably going to be blessing a flute that I'm making if I can get it done in time. Because I'm in a class that we do that, and so I have one that's like almost halfway, to the point where you have to like glue it together. And so I'm making this flute, and once that's done, I'll be blessing it probably with more god energies, because it's made out of a walnut and it just feels godly. And I picked the next wood to make my next flute, and turns out I picked one for the next, it has a lot of different things that are associated with it. It's a redwood, very, very red. I don't know what type of wood it actually is. It's just red and really, really dense. Like seriously, cutting it with the table saw, it was smoking, and you're like, I'm sorry. It just, if you've ever worked with machinery and wood, you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, so that one I'm definitely going to be blessing on Samhain night, to kind of embark on the next phase of life, which is, I guess, the next kind of thing to talk about is I'm sort of transitioning, and I'm kind of gonna mark it at Samhain. And in a sense, I already kind of did at Litha, the summer solstice, when I walked the labyrinth on this freaking hilltop at really hot. Southern Utah gets really, really hot in July and August and a little bit of June. So it sort of kicked off this sort of transition that I was making, and I didn't realize it at the time, and over the past months, the universe has been like, something's coming up, something's coming up, something's coming up. And I'm like, what? What is coming up? And then I finally figured it out. So basically I'm just transitioning into the next phase of life, which it's a little difficult. And it's obviously not like an overnight thing. It's just a ritual to kind of be like, yep, universe, so that's happening. So I'm leaving behind the maiden phase of life, and it's been a struggle to kind of let that go. And there's still days when I just flat out refuse. But entering into the next phase of life, it's one that I really, really, really was fighting, to the point that the god Dagda stepped in and was like, honey, you really can't avoid this. You're going to do this whether you want to or not. Because if you don't know, the phases, especially in a woman's life, men have an equivalent, but in a woman's life specifically, you kind of have the child stage where you need to be constantly monitored, because if you don't, you can die. You really can't find food and shelter, and the generics. Child stage, and then the maiden is beginning, you know, with your period. And then to me, it kind of lasts until whatever part of the world you're in basically is when you become an adult. I think in other countries you become more of an official adult at different ages, but basically between like 18, 19 to about 22-ish. And it's not as abrupt a change as transitioning from child to maiden, because, you know, as a girl, and again, males, you have your equivalent, but for girls, you start gushing blood. You kind of can't deny it, and things are growing, and your body's taking a shape instead of not so much of a shape, and you're like, hormones. And, you know, the maiden stage is all about figuring out who you are and trying out these different parts of society to see where you're gonna fit in. You know, a lot of people, that's the time where you start experimenting with drugs, you get a little promiscuous, you know, you're going to parties, you're trying out different clubs at schools, you've got the school drama, like just all of the encompassing teenage years summed up into one label. And the biggest part is just trying to figure out who you are. And then by the time you're in, you know, college, university, getting a real job, moving out, stage of life, that's sort of when you start to transition into the next phase, which is the lover. And I was like not having that at all. Like, for me, the lover stage never really clicked, and I was going to find a different alternative for it, because while I am panromantic, I am asexual. So that complicates every single aspect of my practice, considering the main deities that I worked with are very, very sexual for most people, and then I'm sitting over here like, not so much for me, guys. And so, I mean, I wasn't expecting to have to embrace the lover phase. I was expecting, you know, I'll just work on like maybe a witch phase, or priestess, or prepping to become a teacher of the craft to people, or something like that, because I mean, not to have the pity party, but bring out the hats. I haven't dated since I was 12, and even then, it really wasn't dating. It was like 12-year-olds pretending to date. It really wasn't dating. And, you know, like meeting outside of school and going on like legitimate dates and stuff never really happened. So, since I was 12, none of that's happened. I can't physically see how the lover stage could possibly ever relate to me, considering that I haven't dated since I was 12 and I'm asexual. So it makes it very complicated to connect to the term of lover as your next phase of life. And even though, again, I am panromantic, it's still like, And, you know, Dagda, he's the one who came into my life and told me this. You'd think it would be Morgan. You know, I've been working with the goddess. I've really been connecting with the goddess. And then he just shows up out of nowhere and is like, girl, you can't actually skip it. And congrats. And just, I wasn't expecting that. I mean, of all the deities to have guide you through this phase of life as you transition from a maiden into the lover phase as a woman, having a god be the one to kind of reign over that just felt weird. And then I started to think, maybe that's why I'm having to work with him through this, because, you know, I can easily connect with the goddess and her imagery of it because I'm a girl. It's pretty easy. But having to go through that with a god, and it's a very different energy between Dagda and Morrigan, despite being from the same sort of pantheon and having a lot of similar traits, they are quite different. And it's like, my time with Morgan isn't over by any means, but Dagda's just like, sup. And I don't know, it's just really interesting. And there's a lot of different things that go along with the lover phase, and I'm only just beginning to like learn about that because it's not very well discussed. I haven't found any books that really mention like the fivefold goddess deal instead of the triple goddess. I really haven't found many that talk about that phase of your life. And yeah, thankfully the video that I was wanting to direct you to for months now is finally back. So my favorite channel of all times ever, Olivia Pigipshian, she lives in the UK, and she, oh, she finally brought some videos back that I've been needing. Because when she was making those videos, she was a little bit older than me at the time, but only by about a year. And now that they're really relevant to my life, I'm just so glad she brought them back. So she has a video titled The Fivefold Goddess, and then she has one talking about her rite of passage. And they're really, really good. You need to watch them. I will link them down below. And so, yeah, she's obviously more advanced into her lover phase and very, very different worlds. But yeah, Dagda is guiding through that, at least at the initial stage of it. I don't know how much he's going to be there throughout the entire process, but who knows. So that's sort of the major thing that I am focusing on at Samhain, is sort of marking officially that I am transitioning from the maiden who doesn't have a lot of responsibilities and can just kind of do whatever, still in the whole finding myself, into the lover where you're getting confident in who you are and you're taking, you know, responsibility for everything in your life, not just making sure you don't wind up pregnant or getting who knows what disease, but, you know, being a little bit more conscious of your life. You know, you're getting your career under control and probably finishing up your education if you're going to higher education, or getting like a legitimate job, and just sort of growing up. And yeah, it's just really interesting to transition to that, because obviously I haven't gone through that. So yeah, that's kind of the main thing that I'm focusing on with this Samhain. It doesn't feel like the end of the year like it has in previous times. It's always like the new year is a Yule, like screw Samhain as being the new year basically. Like it takes place at Yule, obviously. And this year it's like the complete opposite. And while most people are talking about, you know, Samhain and death and the ancestors and all of this, and, you know, banishing the bad things in your life and whatever, I'm sitting over here like, it's the new year, and I'm like feeling the new year energies, and there's a dark undertone to it, but it's like more of a new year feel of new beginnings and kind of preparing to go on this new journey. So it's sort of my main plans for Samhain. And I mean, obviously I'm going to be honoring the ancestors a little bit, but I don't do like the silent dinner or anything like that, because I just don't. I don't know, I guess that's really it for my plans this year. Oh, and then the other thing that I am planning is, while I am going through this transition from maiden into the lover phase, which again still feels so weird, but Dagda made it a big point to say, nope, that's, you know, you can't get out of that. But despite that, I do have other plans as well as that for Samhain. It is also the time that I am going to be embarking on a sort of year and a day, but for specifically owning the label witch, which I was already planning on doing, but then Dagda was like, sup, you are not getting out of that. But I will be working on really honing into witch, and I am a little bit inspired by Ember Honeyraven, because, you know, watching her Witchiversity thing has been really interesting, but there's a lot of stuff that I was just like, I don't care. I've kind of learned every single thing that I need to for Wicca, but I really haven't learned a lot about witchcraft. While there is an element of witchcraft in Wicca, I just really want to work on witchcraft individually. So yeah, I don't know. That's just sort of what I'm up to for Samhain. And yeah, I don't know, let me know what you're up to for Samhain down below. And if you have any information on this fivefold goddess thing, let me know. So anyways, I will talk to you guys soon. And also, this is the best freaking candle ever. It's Pumpkin Patch. Oh, I just put one of them out. It's one of those 3 thingamajigs. But yeah, it's by this company. It's Midnight Market and it's Pumpkin Patch. It smells so good. They also have Halloween treats. I don't know if they're still selling these this year because they're from last year, but they smell amazing. So anyways, thank you so much for watching, and let me know what you're doing for Samhain and everything. So comment down below, and until my next video, thank you for watching, and blessed be.